The Cavaliers have made 2 additions to their coaching staff in Johnny Bryant and DeMarre Carroll, and these 2 moves are sneaky good, but could end up making a huge difference in the grand scheme of things for the Cavaliers next year, adding these 2 to their coaching staff as Kenny Atkinson arrives as the head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Hey everybody, Billy Beebe back with you here on Cavs Digest. News like this is the exact reason why you want to subscribe when the Cavs do things like this. We will both break the news and talk a lot about it a little bit. So when you subscribe with Cavs Digest, you get this kind of news right away. It's coming right at you. So make sure you subscribe. We've got a ton of videos going so far. You can go back and rewatch those. We'll be talking about them throughout this video, so you'll want to go do that to kind of catch up on things and see how things are going. Now, let's get to these huge additions the Cavaliers have made that we were talking about, and you may think to yourself, assistant coaches, guys on the coaching staff can't be that big a deal. Well, we're going to talk about why it is, and then at the end of this video, a little bit of fun. If you watched our Isaac Okoro video, it looks like he's going to be signed and traded at some point. You can watch those videos to lean into more of that. I thought it'd be fun to go back and look at 2020. I was blogging about the Cavs at that point. I thought it'd be fun to go back and see what I thought about Isaac Okoro before the Cavaliers even drafted him. But before we get to that, let's talk about these huge additions that the Cavs made. And let's start with Johnny Bryant, former Knicks assistant. Before that, he was a Jazz assistant. We'll get to his time with the Jazz here in just a second. But Bryant is a name that floated around the NBA as a possible head coach in multiple spots, and that includes the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland looked at him as a prime option for this opening coaching spot that they just gave to Kenny Atkinson, and the idea of that is such a big deal because you add a guy that you thought could be your head coach as your number 2, as a guy that still is going to be around your team every day. So you kind of get the best of both worlds where you get Kenny Atkinson, but you also get Johnny Bryant, who's going to make a huge difference. And if you watched our Kenny Atkinson press conference review and his plan for the season, we talked a little bit about this, and this is the big thing here. He's going to utilize his assistant coaches, right? That is a big deal. He will lean on these guys to make decisions, to help develop players, to make moves. He did it himself in Atlanta as an assistant and some other places that most recently Golden State to help win a title. So it is a big deal for Kenny Atkinson to lean on his assistant coaches, such as Johnny Bryant. We'll talk about DeMarre Carroll here in a second, to get the most out of his players. Now, let's skip to the second thing we're going to talk about here, and that is Donovan Mitchell and Johnny Bryant, their relationship, how big a deal it is, because it goes back to Utah where Mitchell and Bryant were very, very close. He considered him a mentor. He considered him a big player in his development, a reason he kind of took after Dwayne Wade and took up these moves that Dwayne Wade had made. Bryant and Mitchell became very close, and that was cited upon the hiring right away, and this is from Cleveland.com. Chris Fedor talking a little bit about how Mitchell said Johnny Bryant, he referred to Bryant as one of the most influential people in his career, noted development coach, mentor, and confidant. Obviously, all those words are kind of huge to talk about when you're discussing Donovan Mitchell, the star of your team and the newest addition to the coaching staff. So if you think to yourself, hey, the second in command, the third in command don't quite matter, think again, because we're already discussing a guy that's extremely close with the best player on your team. Let's get to the other name they added, and that is DeMarre Carroll, most recently with the Lakers, also assistant coach with the Bucks, player coach with the Bucks, and then, of course, he's been around the NBA for years. He's got some experience with winning teams. You love that. He can relate to players who either A, played against him, played with him, or know his name kind of floating around from the league. And then, of course, the big reason, he is a Kenny Atkinson guy. Played for Kenny Atkinson both in Atlanta and Brooklyn. When Kenny Atkinson lost his job in Brooklyn, DeMarre Carroll went out and kind of said, how is this guy not employed right away? How did he lose his job, and why isn't anybody talking about it? And again, DeMarre Carroll's got the experience. He's got that kind of relationship with other players and guys that kind of know him from the league. And then now he's got the Kenny Atkinson preachability to the other players. So as a new coach arrives, as things begin to kind of change around the Cleveland area, if guys get a little stressed out, if guys aren't buying into the system, it's possible a former player, a guy they know in DeMarre Carroll, could pull them aside and say, hey, Coach Atkinson does this because this. I've seen this work. I myself got better because he did this. He's a guy that's going to be able to stick up for him. And again, if you don't believe that's realistic or could happen, this is what Kenny Atkinson did with his past teams, with teams he assisted with, the Clippers, the Warriors, the Hawks, and of course he was the head coach of the Nets. But he's player development. He knows how important a 2 and a 3 assistant can be to talking with players and kind of making that difference. So you get DeMarre Carroll, he'll step in, he'll start working with, and it looks like your roster is going to have a lot of young guys still. Craig Porter will be back. You're hoping Amani Bates can break through that roster, and then Jalen Tyson joins your roster, and you're hoping Carroll can kind of sit and talk with those guys and work with those guys on a daily basis, and Kenny Atkinson can trust him to do so. And then on the flip side of things, like we talked about, Johnny Bryant, he'll trust him to do the same, not just with Donovan Mitchell, but as a quality number 2, really a number 1, as he was interviewed for a lot of head coaching positions. Really quality stuff to have these 2 guys on your coaching staff being able to make a difference. So we'll keep an eye on those huge moves. I think as the season kind of trudges on, as you have a new guy taking over in Kenny Atkinson, familiar faces, familiar names, and guys that preach the head coach can really, really make the difference. Moving on, as we talk about those huge moves, it's something fun here on Cavs Digest that I wanted to do, and that's talk a little bit about Isaac Okoro. I discussed a possible sign-in trade with him coming. Bobby Marks of ESPN talked about that, and we did a video on possible upgrade for Cam Johnson, for Miles Bridges, for Dorian Finney-Smith. There's a lot of options there, and the draft kind of reminded me that I was blogging back when he was drafted and was real heavy into that 2020 COVID-ish draft, and that brought me back to what I said about Okoro, and this was coming out. If they can get him at 5 or 6, he could blossom into a quality starter in the coming years, and he could definitely improve Cleveland's defense. Man, I'm sorry. I was right on that. I was exactly right. That is who Isaac Okoro is. That is exactly what he became. And look, probably didn't work out to that number 5 overall potential. I think I had a Jimmy Butler comp, and then on the low end, something a little smaller like Justice Winslow. And I think, in my opinion, he ended up right in between. So, I don't think I was too wrong about that there. But, again, recap, we talked a little bit about this coaching staff, the additions of Johnny Bryant and DeMarre Carroll. Had a little fun with Isaac Okoro. Get inside the comments. Let me know what you think. You know much about Johnny Bryant, about DeMarre Carroll. What do you think about them joining the Cavaliers staff? How big a difference could that be for Donovan Mitchell, for the roster? Get in the comments. Let us know. Is the assistant coach no big deal, or is this the move the Cavaliers are looking for? And as things happen, again, stay tuned on Cavs Digest for more.